Based on the glowing reports you see everywhere, you have to ask what the impact of initiating a customer success program would have on your business. Is customer success the silver bullet that everyone makes it out to be? Or will it turn my company into a SaaS superstar or simply make it grow like one? Or will it be just another source of unsustainable overhead? If you've got questions like these, then we've got just the expert for you. David is an executive leadership coach, a two-time top 100 customer success strategist, and a revenue architect. He helps clients drive their customer success vision, strategy, and roadmap by leveraging talent, process, and technology to lead transformation and to deliver value. So if you're keen on a wide-ranging discussion of customer success and revenue generation, please click the like button and let the algorithm know you want more of this kind of content. David, welcome to the Subscription Maker podcast.
Thanks, Zachary. It's good to be here.
Okay, let's start with this tough stuff first, or start at the beginning. What does customer success mean to you?
So I define customer success in two different ways. First, customer success is a team, sometimes a collection of teams within a company that deals with customers. You've got the customer success team itself. You've got customer support, customer success operations. Some people refer to them as RevOps or revenue operations. And then sometimes you have a renewals team. So it's typically a collection of teams. Secondly, customer success is also a mindset that should permeate a company from the top down. It's a fanatical view that puts the customer at the center of every decision that a company makes, with the realization that everyone in the company has the ability to impact customers.
Just so we know, what's at stake? What is the potential impact of a well-functioning customer success program on a company?
So a well-functioning customer success program sets the customer up for success with the company's products, but it also sets the company up for long-term success with the customer, right? So by delivering an exceptional onboarding experience, something that includes the achievement of first value or first impact, you're setting customers up for success with the initial use cases they have and solving the pain that they came to the company to begin with. Incorporating the proper plays to drive adoption in a proactive way enables customers to gain ongoing impact, which is critical to being able to retain them and to being able to renew them. And after having timely strategic discussions, you'll expose new pain points or new use cases with which you can use to grow the revenue from existing customers.
What is required to build a customer success culture in a company?
Well, as I said before, customer success is a mindset. Customer centricity has to start at the top. If the C-suite isn't on board with delivering impact to customers, isn't on board with considering the customer perspective in everything it does, then the company's likely to maintain more of a company-centric or sales-centric culture as opposed to a customer-centric culture. The difference there is, in a sales-centric culture, I'm selling because I need more revenue, right? So I'm going to go to a prospect or a customer and try to sell them something, whether I know that they're going to get impact out of the product or not, because I have a quota to meet. When I think about it from a customer-centric perspective, I'm looking to identify the pain points that a customer has and then deliver solutions that actually solve those problems, right? And delivers impact to the business. That's the mindset that needs to permeate an organization through the whole organizational structure and procedures and processes that a company puts in place.
Now, a lot of people don't realize when salespeople oversell a product at the initial sales, it impacts their overall revenue, doesn't it?
Absolutely, 100%. So a lot of companies, They don't know what an ideal customer profile is, right? They don't know what types of businesses will benefit from their products the most. And so they'll sell to anybody. And what happens when you do that is those customers then go into onboarding, they start using the product, and then they realize the product is not really solving their pain point. That ends up in churn. And in a SaaS business, it usually takes a couple of years to get an ROI after putting in all of the sales effort and the cost to acquire new customers. If they don't stay with you, you're going to end up losing money. And if they do stay with you and they're not a good match, then you're going to end up spending a lot of time and money trying to customize and fit a square peg into a round hole.
Now, I've heard people describe SaaS companies as being dashboard driven. Would you explain what that means and what kind of data is required to support a customer success function?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a lot of different types of data that companies can capture. And in the SaaS world, um, there's probably even more than in service businesses. First, I would say start with firmographic data, right? To categorize your companies. What are their businesses about? Where are they located? What industries are they in? That sort of thing. Because then you can look at, you have the ability to slice and dice by industry, by cohort, using different data. Then you have revenue data, right? What is the revenue that those customers are generating for their own business, and what's the revenue that they're generating for your business? You can use that to segment customers to figure out whether you want to give them low touch support. Then there's adoption metrics, right? These are pieces of data that are used to understand how the customer is using your product, right? Are they merely logging in and not accomplishing tasks? Are they accomplishing tasks and achieving results? Right? A lot of that can come from adoption metrics. Then on top of that, you've got customer support data, customer satisfaction data, and qualitative feedback data, all used to drive relevant actions when you're engaging with customers. Um, the one that most people don't think about is identifying and capturing your customers' desired outcomes as pieces of data. If I go into my CRM and I identify what my customer is trying um, to achieve, and then I can validate that and go back into my CRM and log that that's been validated, I can use that impact or those desired outcomes to then ask questions to grow that piece of business. And then the last thing I'd say, not exclusive by any means, but the last one that comes to mind is churn reason codes, right? I need to capture data to understand why customers are leaving and what's not working. I'll use that data in conjunction with other pieces of data to change my process or maybe even change my ideal customer profile and who we're selling to.
Now, you've talked already about how customer success requires a champion. It needs someone in the C suite or the C suite in general to be able to understand the importance of customer success. Would you now talk about what else is needed to get started and what we can do today?
Yeah.
And that's,
Yep.
go
So
ahead.
I would make sure that we've got the right mindset in the business to be customer centric from the top down. If you don't have that, starting a customer success program is really nothing more than an effort in futility to some degree, or just to be able to have some bragging rights, telling people that you have a customer success program when you're really not using it to achieve the desired results that you would want to achieve. So that's where I would start. I would start with mindset. Beyond that, I think starting a customer success program really depends on several factors, including the maturity of the company, the size of the company, the types of pain points they're having. So starting a customer success program in an early stage company would look very different than it would in a mid-size or a mature company, right? So in a In a new company, in an emerging company, you might start a team that wears a lot of different hats, that is doing a lot of different things for the customer, including onboarding and engagement and maybe strategic conversations for renewal and growth, those types of things. They may even be getting involved in customer support as well. In a more mature company, customer success roles are typically um, uh, not generic. They're typically customized to specific things. I might have somebody that just does onboarding. I might have somebody that just does renewal, right? So you want to, when you look at a customer success organization and you see where your pain points are and say, okay, I realize that I'm having a lot of churn. I need to either start a customer success organization or grow my customer success organization to solve that one problem, reducing churn, and then figure out how to go about doing that.
So what kind of time frame are we looking at before we can expect to see some results? I mean, something that's going to show up in a dashboard.
Yeah, this is an interesting question, Zachary, because a lot of people think when I start an organization, it's going to take a long time until I see any ROI from it. I don't feel that way at all. A company starting customer success program can see some quick wins within 30 days, right? First of all, having that customer success mindset drives different types of engagements with customers, right? So I go from having tactical conversations to having strategic conversations. Those strategic conversations can very quickly turn into expansion opportunities. They can very quickly transform the relationship between the customer success manager and the customer from that of somebody that's just helping them out to somebody who's really a trusted advisor, right? If I build a plan around something that I'm struggling with, let's say I'm struggling with churn, and I need to understand the causes of that churn and then build some well-defined trigger plays, I can probably start seeing results from that process in less than 60 days and start to be able to turn some customers that are trending towards churning, but now I'm trending them towards renewing with me, right? Just because I'm handling the engagement with them differently. So there's a couple of examples. Some things that take longer than others is I work with a lot of clients that capture pieces of data in very disparate systems, right? So they have a data warehouse, they have a CRM, they have a customer success tool, they might have a dashboard like Tableau or something like that. And those systems aren't talking to each other. And if they undertake an effort to link all of those systems together and integrate them to create a 360-degree view of the customer, that can take time. That could take 6 months or longer if you're in a big organization. So I would say there's a lot of things that might take time, but there are plenty of opportunities to get quick wins along the way where you're achieving value of building a customer success framework and mindset within your company pretty quickly.
David, please tell us a bit about Winning by Design.
Yeah, Winning by Design is a global consulting and advisory firm. We were founded in 2012, and we help our clients achieve durable revenue growth through using something called revenue architecture. And revenue architecture is the ability to optimize go-to-market motions, drive efficient sales processes, and maximize recurring revenue.
Could you talk about a little bit about a revenue generation strategy?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways to generate revenue. Um, what comes to mind is different if you're a sales leader versus if you're a customer success leader, or even if you're a CFO versus a CEO. There's a lot of different strategies out there that you can use to generate revenue. One of the most common things that we see is that when a company needs to generate more revenue, the first thing they do is they say, okay, if we want to double our general revenue, we have to double the number of leads that we're getting, right? That often doesn't work, especially in the type of economy that we're in today. In today's economy, decisions are taking longer to make. People are consolidating the platforms that they're using. Excuse me. And in general, the buying cycles are being elongated. Oftentimes, what we recommend is for a different type of revenue generation strategy. And that's one where companies work hard to grow revenue from existing accounts. So we call that expansion, right? So the ability to expand customers, first of all, you have a much lower cost of acquisition, right? They're already there, and they're probably, if you're treating them well and they're getting impact from your business, then they're probably a raving fan anyway. But by having strategic conversations with them, you can uncover additional pain points by validating what you've done for them in the past and the impact that they've already gotten from you, and be able to grow that business faster and easier than you can by getting new logo sales. So that's just two. There's a lot of different revenue strategies, but one is going after new logos to try to grow the business. Another one is going after new revenue from existing customers.
And for those who are new to customer success, what is a logo sale?
A logo sale is just going after a brand new customer, somebody that you've never done business with before.
Okay. We like to talk about how you make big decisions, things that are going to really move the needle on are high impact. And how does that work with your company and with your clients? How do you advise your clients, and how does that work with your company?
So when we talk about impact, let me start off by laying down a little bit of a framework. So impact, in my opinion, is the result of achieving a desired outcome. Winning by design breaks down impact into two different forms. One is called emotional impact, and one is called rational impact. Emotional impact is impact that happens to an individual. So, for example, an impact to me by buying a new product is the product makes me more efficient. I'm no longer working nights and weekends. Maybe the product makes me look good to my boss, right? An example of that is maybe buying a dashboard product where instead of having to go dig for pieces of data all over the place, and it takes me 4 or 5 hours to build a report for my leadership team, I can go to a dashboard, build that much quicker, cut my work hours, be more efficient, and probably give them a better looking report with more substantial data. That would be an example of emotional impact. Rational impact is impact that happens to a business, right? So some of the most common types of impact, rational impact, would be increasing profit, decreasing cost or cost savings, something like that. Those would be examples of rational impact. So that's how we would define impact.
So how do you coach your team to deal with impact? What kind of steps do you take?
Yeah. So first, somebody has to understand what impact is, and believe it or not, I work with a lot of companies who don't really even understand what impact is. They know what their product is supposed to do. They know what they're delivering to their customers, but they don't really get a handle on how their product is truly impacting the customer's business or the people using the customer, right? So the rational and the emotional impact. So first, I would start by making sure that somebody understands what impact is and not confusing it with product usage. Then I would have them identify the impact or talk to their customers about identifying the impact or desired outcomes that the customer wants to achieve, right? Why did you come to our business? What are you looking for? What are the problems you're trying to solve? What are the pain points you're having? And then as they use the product, we go through and highlight for them the benefits they're getting out of the product through the use cases that they picked and how that is solving the pain point that they told us or the reason why they were coming to the company to begin with. And then what we have to do is once we understand what those desired outcomes are, we have to break down the steps that are necessary to get that customer to impact and track their progress along the way. The last step I would say to that is once the customer is achieving impact, I would tell my team it's important for them to validate that impact with the customer because that does two things. Number one, it reminds the customer of the value that they're getting from the product. They may know they're getting value. They may not even be thinking about it. They're so busy in their day to day. It's just not something that's top of mind. We have to remind them of that because the second reason is if we know they're getting impact and they validate they're getting impact, we have the ability then to sell them more products when we identify additional use cases or features or pain points that they have. And then we also have the ability to turn them into advocates that are loyal to us by either doing a reference call or co-collaborating in a presentation or writing an article together or doing a case study or something else.
So, what advice would you give young or youth entrepreneurs who want to pursue a career similar to yours?
Wow, that's a great question. I probably, there's 5 or 6 things that come to mind. The first one is I would say is be diverse. Expose yourself to different disciplines of work. For me, I started in sales and very quickly moved into customer management. Back in my day, it was called client services. Today, it's called customer success. I also added operations experience. I did a lot of work in operations. And then I developed coaching skills as a leader as I had teams that grew and I had a lot of people under me. It was important for me to be a leader that coached my team to have incremental improvement all the time. And ultimately, I picked and choose between all of my diverse background to do what I'm doing today, the things that I like to do the most and I get the most joy and value out of. The second thing I would say is be open-minded, right? Know that others often know more than you and just be open-minded to other people's ideas and opinions. Next, I would say stay curious, ask questions, listen intently, and try to learn from other people. Going along with that, I would say become a lifelong learner, right? You don't know what you don't know. Always try to learn something new. It doesn't necessarily have to be in your field. It could be something that you're curious about, that you want to learn about to round out your experience. It may be a tangential field that might bring value to what you're doing for your customers. So I would say be a lifelong learner. And then the last thing I would say is for those people out there that are listening that want to be a leader, identify the type of leader you want to be early on, right? Find a mentor or other leaders that you want to implement, that you want to emulate, that have some of those leadership traits that you look up to. Learn about those people, understand what they do, how they develop the skills that they did, and that's going to make it an easier journey for you.
As we start to wrap up, David, is there anything you wish more people would ask you?
Yeah, that's a great question. From a customer success perspective, I wish more people would ask me how to gain incremental improvement in their business instead of massive improvement in a short period of time. I talk to a lot of people, both in my practice on LinkedIn and in networking conversations. And what I often find is that people reach for too much at one time and either don't start because they're completely intimidated by the process or get overwhelmed by the amount that they're trying to grow. So, if you're growing at 5% a year, is it realistic to say, okay, last year I grew 5% a year, next year I want to grow 50% in one year? Or is it more reasonable to say, okay, If I grew 5% last year, I want to grow 8% this year, 15% next year, 25% the year after that by putting in those types of processes. So for me, I would say I'd love for people to ask me how to get incremental improvements out of their business that multiply over time than just going and trying to hit a home run the first time.
Is there anything new, product or service, on the horizon that you feel comfortable sharing with us?
Yeah, I'll throw out two things. The first one is something that's already happened. The second one is something that's happening now. And both of these are from a winning by design perspective. Um, I'd imagine many people in your audience that are familiar with customer success or revenue architecture are familiar with Winning by Design's founder, Jocko Vanderkooy. He recently published a new book called Revenue Architecture that is fast becoming the preeminent book on recurring revenue. The book explains the science behind revenue architecture and teaches the community about the 6 models that we've built to achieve revenue growth, primarily in SaaS companies, but it also works for service companies as well. The book's recently hit the market to rave reviews, and it's available on Amazon. Just go to Amazon and type in revenue architecture. The second thing, Zachary, I would say is that Winning by Design has come up with a new service, for us, I'll call it a product, but since we're consulting something, it's really a service that we call impact sprints. And these are very short-lived programs that deliver impact to companies very quickly. So when people think about going out and getting a consultant to maybe help improve their business, they think of these long engagements, right? We've come up with a way, it's something that our customers have asked us for in the past, where we focus, instead of focusing broadly and putting a lot of suggestions and improvements out there, we go deep on 1 or 2 areas, and very quickly, literally within just a couple of weeks, we can start helping a company achieve incremental improvements to their business. It's something that's changing the consulting world a little bit, and we're glad to have pioneered these.
What's the best way to follow you on social media?
Yeah, so I'm really only active on LinkedIn. I put most of my effort in there, and you can follow me at linkedin.com/in/David Ellin, and that's DAVIDLLIN.
David, thank you for joining us on the Subscription Maker podcast.
Thanks for having me, Zachary. I appreciate it.
Before we wrap, there are people who work way too hard and earn way too little for their online business. You don't have to be one of them. And that's a wrap.